Hey, you guys, welcome back. This is Nina. Welcome to Love Nation. Like, share, and subscribe. I am going to try to do a a little analysis and play you guys some video from this day 19 of Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard trial. Like, share, and subscribe. Please hit that notification bell as well as thumbing up this video. I am definitely going to say, in my opinion, and like I said, I am definitely going to share some video with you guys. I believe that there was a lot of reaching going on today. I don't think anything fresh or new was actually added. I'm going to go ahead and play some testimony from some of these deposed um, witnesses. And again, this is very sad that Amber literally went out her way to find all these people that really did not add very much to this defamations case. So I'm going to go ahead and start by just showing you guys a few minutes of testimony here and there, and then I'm going to come back with some commentary. So I'm going to start with the first guy of the day. I believe his name was Bruce, if I'm not mistaken, and he formerly was a friend of Johnny for about 30 plus years. And ironically so, it seemed like the friendship took a turn as Amber Heard came into the picture. No surprise. I'm going to go ahead and play some of his testimony and then come back with my thoughts.
So Stephen called at around 3 in the morning, and then you went down, and your understanding, you went down after that call.
Yeah.
And what was your understanding of the reason you were called?
Yeah, there was just crazy arguing and stuff going on down there, and for some reason he thought I could help.
What was crazy about it?
I mean, I think what was crazy to me is that's the first time that ever happened. You know, the first time Steven ever called me for help like that. You know, usually it's just to come and record or go do this or go do that, but for some reason he wanted me to come.
And when Steve had called you, did he make any references to anything being thrown around?
That I don't remember. You know, it was almost like shit's going crazy down here. Can you come?
Did he say that he wanted you to come urgently?
Yes.
How long did it take you to get there?
My house downtown at 3 in the morning, maybe 20 minutes.
Did you ever talk to Amber when you went over that morning?
Not really. It was just a lot of walking around and people going in and out of the bedroom. And, I don't remember if people were crying. I don't remember any of that stuff. It was just like a blur to me. You know, I don't remember if I talked to her. I'm sure I probably said everything's gonna be all right. Like by the time I got there, you can tell there was a vibe in the house, but there's nothing I could witness.
What was the vibe in the house?
Yeah, just people, you know, a little bit of an edge. You know, and look, I got called down there at 3 in the morning, and there's the mom up. I mean, it was obviously to me something went down, but I didn't see anything.
And if we could pull up Exhibit 13, please. And do you recognize the person in this picture?
Yep.
Who is it?
Amber Heard.
This picture is ALH, in case you can't see the base number, 7101. It's dated March 23rd, 2013. Mr. Whitkin, you mentioned previously that you had seen bruises on Amber's upper arm.
Yeah, one time, yes.
One time. Does this look like the bruise you saw on Amber's upper arm? Mr. Whitkin, what did the bruise that you saw on Amber look like?
I mean, it looked similar to that, but it didn't look like it looked like a grab, not a punch.
All right. So when he actually said this, I actually believe that this is probably the most significant thing that he could have even tried to add to this conversation. Um, I'm actually glad that he said that because it's one thing to be putting pause on people, and there's another thing to where you're defending yourself. I've always felt that, listening to the audio, I always felt like Johnny was always put in a position to where he had to defend himself, meaning, maybe grab her shoulder, push her hands away, step back and leave for a while to go take a breath. It always seemed like Johnny was playing defense in which he was trying not to be uh physical with her. So this was probably the only good thing that came out of this. This guy, I believe his name is Bruce, he seemed to be very honest in what he was saying. I didn't get a vibe to like he was either ad-libbing or just flat out pulling a Pinocchio. This guy seemed to be legit in the questions and responses that he, answered.
Just somebody grabbed her arm.
And do you remember what year or time frame that bruise that you saw was?
I'd have to go through the dates. We were working on a Keith Richards documentary, and Johnny and her showed up to the studio, and I just had noticed it on her arm.
And
I don't know if it's the same date or not.
did the bruise look like this bruise?
It's in the same vicinity. I don't know if that's the one.
Can you tell me more specifics about that bruise? What did it look like?
Like I said, it just looked like she was grabbed. That's all. That's what it seemed to be. Finger marks.
And did you ever talk to Amber about that bruise?
No.
And when did you see Mr. Depp with a fat lip?
Late. I'm thinking it's sometime in either 2015 or 16 during rehearsal.
Could have been can you be more precise of a month? Do you think it could have been in the spring of 2015?
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, we toured spring to summer, so yeah, maybe it's the spring of 15 or 16. I think it was 16. I think. But we did do other rehearsals for other spot gigs, so I could be off by a year.
If we could bring up Exhibit 15, please. If you look at the first text, Mr. Wicken, it's from Mr. Depp. It says, "I'm good, just got a fucked finger."
Right.
And the second text?
That's from Dudes, yeah.
And do you remember what you would have been concerned about?
Just the fact that somehow his finger got cut off, and he's got doctors around him that are supposed to be making him sober, and everything's supposed to be better, and it wasn't.
Did Mr. Depp ever talk to you about that, about sobering up?
A little bit. He just said, AA wasn't his cup of tea. Didn't believe in a higher power.
He didn't believe sobering up was his cup of tea?
Well, he just didn't believe in a higher power. If he was going to do it, he'd do it his own way.
Do you remember any specific incidents of anger with Amber?
I mean, he would talk about frustrations or whatever, and we would try and talk through it, but it wasn't as much anger as it was like confusion and sadness and why is this not working? But no, he would never, very rarely would it be a specific reason why.
And did you notice any increase or decrease in Mr. Depp's anger when he was drinking or on drugs?
I didn't notice much of a difference,
Did you ever see Mr. Depp doing drugs with other bandmates?
Yes.
Did you ever?
Again, that was pretty much the most interesting topical part of his testimony. Like I said, this gentleman did not have much to add. The next person up, I believe, was Johnny Depp's ex agent. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to that and play you guys a little bit of her testimony.
A lot of experience with high profile people and really helping them seriously get and stay sober.
Did you observe in your dealings with Mr. Depp as his representative that he romanticized the entire drug culture?
Yes.
I'm asking for your observations based on your dealings with Mr. Depp. Was it your observation that Mr. Depp had fundamental issues with anger?
Yeah.
And in your observation of Mr. Depp having fundamental issues with anger, did that worsen over the time of your representation, or was it relatively the same?
Yes. It worsened over time.
Did you observe Mr. Depp lacking patience when he didn't get his needs met?
Yes, but yes.
Do you recall a time while you were representing Mr. Depp that he started having earpieces so people could feed him his lines during filming?
Yes.
Again, her testimony I thought was just jammed in there just for Amber Heard to just have people. I did not see what significance his previous agent brought to the table at all. I thought this was another space filler. But I'll play a little bit more for you guys.
Recall that became a regular thing for Mr. Depp, that he needed to use earpieces for lines when he had with him doing films.
Yes.
Do you have a recollection of issues associated with London Fields?
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to take a look at deposition exhibit number 8. Ms. Jacobs, I'll take you to the second page first, and you can just read the frame. And there's really some part there.
All right, so I'm just going to pause and just give this a quick read. This is from Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp's people, I guess, had to get in contact with her to get this information out. Obviously, it sounds, very angry. And it says it must be shut down or I will sue them 18 ways from effing Sunday. These people are nobodies in this business, and they should be made to understand that we will ruin them instantly. Then it goes on to say, I need you. So you get on the effing Harleys regarding London Fields. They are going to be premiering at the Toronto Film Festival. Despite our letter or legal action, if they use their version or not, I think that says Matthew Cullen version, it is in Amber's contract that there will be no nudity, and her effing agents are weak and basically stupid. Also, they were told that I would not allow them to use any of my work in the film, as I had agreed to do the film based on Matthew. Will you please call them MFs, and you and Jake get on this immediately?
And then here's where I'm going to direct your attention. This is from Mr. Depp to you on Saturday, August 29, 2015. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Depp, when Mr. Depp would write to you in emails, would he regularly have parts of it all capitals and exclamation marks?
Yes.
Harleys. He says fucking Harley. What is he talking about?
I think he's referring to, I don't know. I think he might be referring to the daughter of a director friend of his, but I'm not sure.
So, do you have an understanding of what he's talking about with the Matthew Cullen version?
Matthew Cullen was the director. I don't know about nudity, although clearly that was the case according to his understanding. And I guess he was trying to get me to kill it.
Okay. And then you responded to him, I'm already on it with lawyers, and Marty Singer has spoken to Matthew Cullen twice this AM. He also wants it stopped. We are doing everything to shut this down. Was there another version of
Oh, I'm sorry. I have to correct myself. He made a typo here, which is why Harley, he means Hanley. They were the producers.
And as you sit here today, can you recall anyone at Disney committing in any way that Johnny Depp would be in Pilot 6?
No.
You testified at the beginning of this deposition that while you represented Mr. Depp, he was, I think, the biggest star in the world. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
And what would you say the reputation of Johnny Depp is today?
These lawsuits don't help.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, it's endless, but I don't know because I'm not out there selling him anymore.
But have you ever seen Mr. Depp engage in angry behavior?
Yes.
Now, were you aware that Mr. Depp filed a lawsuit in the United Kingdom against the Sun newspapers and Dan Wooten, the editor, because they called him a wife beater?
Yes.
Have you ever seen Mr. Depp hit a woman?
Judge
No.
Newton?
Have you ever seen Mr. Depp throw anything at a woman?
No.
Have you ever seen Mr. Depp kick a woman?
No.
Other than Amber Heard, do you know of any other woman who ever accused Mr. Depp of physical abuse?
No.
Have you ever seen in person any marks on Amber Heard?
No.
Ms. Jacobs, you testified, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that in the last 10 years of your representation of Mr. Depp, there was more unprofessional behavior by Mr. Depp. Is that correct?
Yes.
During that period of time, the last 10 years you represented him, was he ever fired from a movie?
No.
Have you ever seen this document before?
I don't recall this exact document, but I know there were conversations going on.
What were you referring to when you said at the top of this document, Depp Exhibit 5, this is good news?
That we were able to help him out when he was in financial desperation.
When you say help him out, who is him?
Johnny Depp.
And what particularly was good news?
That we were able to secure a loan for him through Bank of America when Ed White couldn't get him any money. And it was very helpful to him.
What was the final?
Again, I kind of hate that they putting all his business out like that, but he had a very large lifestyle, overspending, surely had several obligations that need to be paid. And again, he just kept spending and spending. Them having to put this money issue out there, even after this man has grossed or close to $700 million over 30 years, is actually more sad to see that he is literally he's just pissed through the money. So let me just move forward with some other Um, just some other snippets from people testifying. Like I said, I don't even think most of this was really all that relevant.
I'm aware that you're telling me. Is it true that you did not file his tax returns or those on behalf of his company for 17 years? No, that's not true. Were there times that you were unable to pay some or all of Mr. Depp's taxes on time? What is your understanding of what or his numerous other vices meant? The use of alcohol and drugs. Do you know how much Mr. Depp spent on prescription drugs during the time that you were his business manager? There were periods of time when prescription spending was, from just my experience, very high, thousands of dollars a month, but I can't tell you the time periods. Do you have a recollection of whether TMG had to pay for property damage at other rental properties or hotel properties that Mr. Depp used because of damage to the property? Specifics, no, but did we pay damages at various times over the years? Absolutely, yes. And do you recall that Mr. Depp from time to time did commit property damage in the rentals that he was in or hotels? And you recall that there were times you did have to pay for damage to Mr. Depp's rentals, is that correct, or hotels? There were times. Okay. Now, you had testified a little bit earlier about needing 25 million by the end of the year. Are you aware of whether Mr. Depp was able to sign on for any movies and obtain 25 million by the end of the year without the assistance of a lending entity? So the first time that you as the business manager were unable to pay Mr. Depp's taxes by October 15 was October 15, 2015. Is that correct? Correct. And you consider that to be an increasingly difficult and alarming situation that we were trying to resolve into late January 2016. Is that correct? That's correct.
Again, I understand that Johnny Depp did have financial issues. I was still trying to also figure out what was the purpose of actually bringing this information into the trial. I don't think that this actually really, I mean, it really had no bearings on the direction that Amber Heard, I guess, needs to go in. Um, he has paid her. I understand he was an overspender, but I mean that was just like no secret. Like this whole day was just weird. Like the testimonies really, I don't think really helped Amber at all. So let me just keep going.
I showed you earlier exhibit number 8, which was the video clip of Mr. Depp slamming doors and pouring wine, etc., in the kitchen. Do you recall that video? I recall the video, yes. Okay. Do you have a recollection of giving Mr. Depp very bad news the morning of February 10, 2016? I don't recall a specific meeting with a specific date. As I've indicated, there were a variety of meetings in groups and conversations alone and in groups regarding how these very dire financial circumstances were going to be addressed. And as I've indicated, the tone of these conversations became more tense as time went on, and these issues were not being addressed. And is it fair to say in the first half of February of 2016, the conversations that you have just described were taking place? Probably even more specifically,
Mr. Depp and I began having conversations that took on a more heated turn in July of 15, when it became clear that he was not willing to sell the property in the south of France. And the tone of those conversations became more heated and more contentious as time went on, because the circumstances were more dire.
And would it be fair to say that your perception was that the circumstances continued to become more dire between July 2015 up through the time of your termination in March 2016?
They did.
How did you learn of TMG's termination?
Again, I don't think this really should have had much bearing in this case. I mean, we all knew that Johnny Depp was having a lot of issues. This former financial manager, I did not think added much to the conversation. So I'm going to skip past him and go to the next one today. This was a lawyer, I believe. Let's just go ahead and listen to him for a minute.
October 2016, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you have no personal knowledge of any conduct by either of them against the other prior to October 2016, is that correct?
Again, if you're asking me, do I have any knowledge of their conduct? I think I have knowledge of their conduct. I think maybe you're asking me, did I witness conduct?
I'm asking for personal knowledge, which would mean you would have had to have witnessed it.
If you're asking whether I've witnessed it, the answer is no.
And this is the same thing a lot of other people
Your
said.
initial knowledge of the relationship between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard was based on your interviews with Mr. Depp. Would that be fair to say?
I would instruct the witness not to answer that question because he can't even answer yes or no without disclosing the substance of communications with his client, Mr. Depp.
I accept the instruction.
Once you came into Mr. Depp's...
I'm just going to pause it here because, again, this guy, I believe, was Johnny's like lawyer at some point. And again, he didn't have much to add. He couldn't really answer questions because it is client and lawyer privilege. And again, he had nothing substantially that he could add. I mean, this was just witness after witness today was just like boring.
life and became his counsel, Mr. Depp filed with your assistance a number of lawsuits. Would you agree?
Yes.
Did Mr. Depp terminate Tracy Jacobs as his agent before or after you became Mr. Depp's counsel?
Mr. Waldman, I would instruct you not to answer that question if doing so would require you to disclose any communications you had with Mr. Depp.
It would.
How long had Tracy Jacobs been Mr. Depp's agent at the time Mr. Depp terminated Tracy Jacobs?
Again, I'm going to pause it there. I'm just trying to do a recap. Thank you to everybody watching. Please like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when I'm going live. So tonight I am just giving a quick synopsis, running through a few minutes of everybody's testimony just to show that Amber Heard really did not have much to add to these witnesses. Everybody was just being deposed. I'm sure that the jury was probably falling asleep in a seat. So I'm just doing a quick few minutes of just letting each person just give a few minutes and then just describe why I believe that this was a very ineffective day for Amber Heard and in all honesty, a waste of the court's time.
And again, Adam, same instruction to the extent that that answering the question requires you to disclose communications that you had with Mr. Depp. I would instruct you not to answer the question.
It would.
Was it Mr. Depp's decision to terminate Tracy Jacobs?
Again, I would instruct you not to answer that question because that could only have come from Mr. Depp in a communication with you.
I accept the instruction.
After you began representing Mr. Depp filed a lawsuit against Joel Mandel, Mr. Depp's former business manager, correct?
That's correct.
And you represented Mr. Depp in that lawsuit against Joel Mandel and his company, did you not?
I did.
But it was Mr. Depp's decision on whether to file the lawsuit against Mr. Mandel and his company. Would you agree?
I would instruct the witness not to answer that question because it would require disclosure of communications between Mr. Depp and Mr. Waldman as to who was advising who as to filing the case against TMG and the Mandel brothers. So I would instruct you not to answer that.
Again, this is just a quick recap. This by itself, I believe, was a waste of time. I actually don't know what are all the legalities for needing to call a lawyer up there. I do, I was just wondering, like, should he just been like, I know you need to depose me, but I really can't say nothing to you because of client and lawyer privacy. So again, this guy had nothing much to actually add that would really give any significance to Amber. And now going into the next witness, I can't remember who she was. Let me go ahead and play it though.
Dispute. Language that patrol officers were trained to provide when they were not going to document anything from the scene.
It can vary, but officers would commonly use the phrase verbal dispute or to document when a report was not taken.
I'm going to ask you to take a look at what has been marked as deposition exhibit number 8. It's dated November 24, 2014. And it's subject domestic violence supplemental report. And it says the domestic violence supplemental report form 15.40.02 has been revised to provide a more concise picture of the history and needs of the victim for the purpose of investigating the crime of domestic violence. You see that?
Yes.
What is your understanding of why the LAPD decided that they needed to create a supplemental report form that would give a more concise picture of the history and needs of the victim for the purpose of investigating the crime of domestic violence?
Right. The supplemental includes a lot of questions that are required by California state law. So we included that on it. And the original supplemental was actually created a lot earlier, I believe in 1999. This revision of it added some specific questions to help us look at to do a risk assessment. I'm not sure if the supplemental is attached to this form, but on the supplemental, there's a section where I believe there's like 7 yes or no questions. That is what was added during this revision.
Again, this one really did not have much. I believe she was testifying on whether or not the police officers had enough just cause to either write a report or arrest Johnny Depp in a situation where they were called to the house. And again, this we already know that the police didn't go to they went to the house twice. So it was two sets of cops. So a total of 4 police officers went there, saw Amber, examined the torn up penthouses, and just decided like, hey, she just looked like she'd been crying and she's all ruffled, but nothing actually physical or pawpawed happened, and they left.
Detective Satnaga, I'm going to show you what has been marked as deposition exhibit number 9. And do you recognize this supplemental report?
Yes.
Is this the supplemental form that was referred to in exhibit number 8?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if we look at this, and we start out on the left-hand column, and it has a number of different observations to make of the victim. And it includes shaking, unresponsive, crying, scared, angry, fearful, calm, agitated, nervous, threatening, apologetic, under the influence of alcohol, under the influence of drugs, or other observations. And it says document in narrative. All right, are these typically characteristics of victims of domestic violence?
Yes.
I'm going to turn your direction to the crime scene now. And the same question, there's another.
All right, I think that this lawyer at this point is really reaching and misrepresenting. And this is just my opinion. If you're just going to go through this long list that police officers would use in order to investigate this, and I'm not an expert, if you crying and the shaking and all this, apparently Amber didn't have enough going on for them to take this call seriously. And I actually think that this person should have been live so that Johnny's lawyers could have also went through the list and said like, hey, she didn't have this, she didn't have that, she wasn't sad, she wasn't mad, she wasn't shaking, there was nothing we could do. So I think that this witness actually would have been good for Johnny Depp, as far as the officers already testifying and being deposed that they didn't see enough to warrant them to be alarmed.
Number of different items on here, including location vandalized, ransacked, and personal property damage, furniture disarray, broken. What is your understanding why these are included on this list?
My understanding is that these are things that are typically at a crime scene or can occur. So things that we want officers to look for and mark when they take the crime report.
And as with the questions I had on the characteristics that are on the list for the victims, are these items that are also discussed with the police officers in their training to look for in even making the determination whether a crime has taken place?
Yes, they are.
Is there a scenario under which the patrol officers decide that there's no crime, but they see property damage and injury and take photographs?
I mean, every situation is different. I believe, well, one way, if we have a situation like that occurred, then there should be a domestic violence incident report. So
Exactly. I'm glad that she said that, and there was no report on DV for this situation. And again, um, this witness actually should have been for Johnny Depp. I think that, again, just like everybody else that were shown today, nobody really added much to assist Amber's whatever she's trying to do, to say that Johnny did something to her. Now, I think at this point they went to lunch. So I'm just going to fast forward and go to the next witness, and he was in person.
And eventually they offer you enough money where you have to take them up on it. So when you were lured away from Syracuse University, what did you do? I worked at Bell Labs on something called the Unix operating system. Unix is an operating system, which is the core of the computer, what makes everything work. Microsoft Windows is an operating system. Mac OS is an operating system. You may have heard of Linux. which is, Unix was the predecessor to Linux. So I worked on the kernel
All right,
of the
let's
Unix
just
operating
skip
system
forward
for
here.
13,878.
And if we scroll to the right, the last three hashtags, which are highlighted or shows the difference between June and July, what did your analysis show?
Well, you can see that June is about at its steady state. In July, there's also a remarkable jump.
And that's for all three of those hashtags?
That's correct.
And the hashtags, if the hashtags that are in blue are the ones related to Mr. Depp, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Oh, by the way, what is your understanding of when the last alleged defamatory statement was made by Mr. Depp through Mr. Waldman?
My understanding is that it was the end of June of that year.
Of 2020?
Yes.
Now, looking at the hashtags that are highlighted in blue for Mr. Depp, for the months of November and December of 2018 and January of 2019, what does your analysis show?
Well, I see a remarkable jump in November of 2018. And then it starts to, it goes way down in December of 18 and January of 19.
And do you know when Ms. Heard wrote the op-ed in this matter?
My understanding is that it was December of 2018.
And if we go to November of 2020 for the hashtags related to Mr. Depp, if you see the difference between October of 2020 and November of 2020, what do you see there?
I also see a large jump from October to November of 2020.
Okay. And if we look at the last hashtag in blue that says Johnny Depp is a wife beater, what does that show what did your analysis find in terms of tweets without those hashtags?
It looks to me that also, there are none prior to, little here and there, they're single digit ones, but prior to November of 2020, there are basically none. And then it jumps.
I skipped over his testimony because, again, it did not add much, and I'm just going to go to the next one.
Names, and that he fired me on behalf of them.
Okay, that was Amber's former agent, I believe. And again, she had very little to offer.
About what he did when Marilyn Manson would visit.
That was his psychologist. And, again, he offered some in-depth analysis on how Johnny was feeling, his emotional state dealing with Amber. But he, just like all the other witnesses, nobody could really come forward and say, Johnny put paws on her. It seemed like Johnny was going through a lot.
My understanding is just based off my own, mainly based off my own research, just clicking on the accounts myself, and then discussing it amongst the team.
And what did you learn when you did that?
Just as I would go through, daily, just looking at comments or, just the negative comments, clicking on them. Many of them were just kind of accounts made for this kind of commentary, or just accounts that just had, no followers, no posts, nothing, or following just Amber and Johnny, things like that.
And I'm sorry. And so what did you learn from clicking onto those that led you to believe they were bots?
They weren't consistent with what I know to be actual Instagram accounts.
When you look to set a career trajectory for an actor who just broke, and when you say no, I think I have.
And I'm just going to leave you guys with this one, Ellen Birkin. I'm just going to play just a little bit of her testimony. This was really ridiculous.
I have to probably ask clarification. Does that mean you don't know one way or the other, or he is not being considered?
I don't know one way or the other.
Do you know? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that decision doesn't fall within my job responsibility. It's above my head. It's the best way to say it.
So what is the knowledge you have about Pilot 6?
Like I said, I just know that it's a project that's possible.
Oh, I'm sorry. This was the Disney executive. And again, she came off to be very clueless. And then you had Ellen Barkin, who is a previous woman Johnny dated back in literally like the 80s, that came up there and basically said he hit it and quit it. So I'm just going to stop sharing this video and just leave you guys with some thoughts because my computer is about to die. I thought today was a huge loss for Amber. I really didn't really see much significance. I do think that this really did help Johnny's case as far as giving us a little bit more evidence into his mental state. Nobody could say that he put pause on her. I thought it was pretty trashy to bring up an ex girlfriend. That was really pretty trashy. Um, there was no substantial movement in what Amber was trying to do today. I would definitely like to hear you guys' comments about this because, like I said, this case has just been pretty crazy. I think that Johnny has a much, much stronger defense versus what Amber's people are putting up there. I just really think that Johnny has a really strong defense. You guys are welcome to go back through the video. And like I said, the people that were up there today just literally had nothing um uh pertinent to add to help Amber's case. I thought that today kind of wasted the jury's time. There was no significant developments in anything that could have been brought out that we did not already know. Sadly, I will say this, it just made us kind of admire Johnny a little bit more. He has been through a lot. He's been on top, he's been on the bottom. He's trying to kick habits. He's tried to seek help as well as being dragged through a horrible marriage and horrible divorce, losing most of his income at the same time. So, like I said, please share your comments, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when I go live. If you missed the live, just rewind tape and just go back through it and hit that notification bell so you know when I make my next video. I'm definitely going to be coming back live probably tomorrow afternoon just to try to go over this staircase incident between what Johnny said, what Amber said, and what Whitney, who is Amber's sister, said. Like, share, and comment, you guys. Until next time, be safe and enjoy your evening. Bye, guys.